So my name is James Jimbo Waldrop. I was born in New Albany, Mississippi, so here. I moved to DeSoto County and I lived there for a while, and that's where I kind of got into the martial arts. But then I just moved back to New Albany this year and started New Albany MMA Academy. So my sport is, I guess you call it MMA, so mixed martial arts, which is like, and it's like all the martial arts sports put together. So they're all like kind of melded into this one pot. And what's going to happen with it is like, so you have boxing, you have kickboxing, you have judo, you have wrestling, you have sambo, you have jiu-jitsu, you have the different karates, like there's a bunch of different ones. And basically what's happened is like the original UFC, like the original mixed martial arts organization, like what they were trying to do is to see which sport was the best, like for, like I guess you say like self-defense, or just like you put these guys one-on-one, no weapons, like who wins. And it started that way, and like over time it's like become this thing all on its own, where like people come from like Division I wrestling champs will come in, and like glory kickboxing champions come in, boxing champions come in, and what they'll do is like now it's like it's not really like which sport's the best, like which is boxing better than wrestling, is wrestling better than grappling or whatever, you know. What's happened is it's these guys like, I think I want to take this technique from boxing, I want to take this technique from judo, I want to take this technique from jiu-jitsu, and they're putting it together, and then like you're testing yourself in front of, you know, millions of people. It's what the sport's become. So they call it mixed martial arts because it's like it's everything together. And the reason that I really like it is because that creates a sport where, well, one, there's weight classes. So like, you know, something that would frustrate me, so I used to coach football, and something that would frustrate me a lot with coaching football is like, I remember going to a coach's clinic one time and Nick Saban was there. It's like one of the greatest coaches of all time. And he basically just straight up told us like, look, if, you know, you could be the best defensive end in the nation, if you're not 6'3", then you're not coming to Alabama. We don't care. You know what I mean? They're like, it's literally like you have to fit these really strict like I don't know what the word. You have to have these attributes, these physical attributes in most sports. So it's baseball, football, basketball, you know, and like it was just a hard thing. Like I would have kids coming up and like their dream is to go to the NFL, and like, you know, you're looking at their parents and like, you know, it just feels like, you know, in my heart of hearts, like the right thing to do is like to just be honest with them and say, look, I know that's what you want to do, but it's not going to happen. And if you want to do a professional sport, you're going to have to pick something else, and maybe soccer. But this football thing isn't going to work out. You know what I mean? Just if you're going to be 5'7", there's not much options for you. You know. And so, I don't know. I guess like during the same time, like I was I don't know, kind of like having trouble. Like I didn't really want to keep working out at the gym. Like it's kind of like losing motivation. You know, you get older and it's like your bench press max and stuff doesn't mean anything to anybody. You know. And I needed something, like some way to like keep exercising but make it more fun. And I was talking to my wife about an MMA gym that I heard of, and she was like, why don't you just go try it? And I walked in and like freaking fell in love with the sport, which I would have killed to have had a sport like that when I was younger. Because what's cool about MMA is it's there's weight classes, so like it doesn't matter how tall or how short you are, like, or how, you know, big or small you are, like you're going to fit into a weight class. You're going to be competing with guys that are your size. And what's fun about it is like that does mean that there could be like a 6'2" guy that he is like really, really skinny, and they get into a 145-pound weight class, and I'm 5'7". That means we would be in the same weight class, but I'm bigger and he's skinnier, and like it changes how we would approach the fight. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of getting into the weeds, but like if that was me going into that fight, then I would be working really hard on wrestling, and he would probably be working really hard on kickboxing. Just being the taller guy, he would try to keep range. And so what ended up for me, why I kind of fell in love with it is I realized pretty early on that like I had thought that fighting was like a really like manly, like you have to be like a really physical guy or whatever, you know, you got to be really like whoever has the biggest muscles and stuff like that is going to win. But I realized very quickly that was completely wrong. You know, like when I came into the gym the first time, I think I was like 200 pounds, like the biggest I'd ever been. I was working out really heavy. And I got paired with this little 135-pound guy, and they call it like rolling, especially sparring. So like you put a mouthpiece in, slap hands, like we're fighting, you know. And this little 135-pound guy was just throwing me like repeatedly, over and over and over, just throwing me on my head. And I just couldn't believe, like, how could this little guy, you know, do this to me? And you start to realize like from there that like, oh wow, this sport is crazy because like it doesn't really matter how big or physical you are. Like you can always find a way to win. It's just about who practices the most. And so that's my favorite thing about coaching it is why we wanted to open in New Albany is it's really fun being able to take guys and like be honest with them. Like in football, you can't be honest and say like, look, you work as hard as you can, like you can get to your dreams. You're lying to them. That's not true. Most of them will never make it to the NFL or NBA if you're playing basketball or MLB if you're playing baseball. But in mixed martial arts, that is the truth. Like you tell them like, that if you work as hard as you can and you practice every single day, like it's not just you might make it. It's you're guaranteed to at least get a shot. Now it's up to you whether you finish that shot or not. But like in Mississippi, like we recently just had 4 or 5 guys in this last month that got called up to the major leagues or whatever. And it's like how many guys do we know that made it to the NFL? It's not many. Very few. A guy from my school that I was coaching, he made it to the NFL. His name was Kobe Dean. But that's why I kind of fell in love with it. And then on top of that, like what you kind of start to realize, or what you kind of start to see is like you go into these MMA gyms and you'll see these guys that are like, I don't know any other word to say, like they look nerdy, kind of, like they're really intellectual type guys, or whatever. They're like working as a lawyer, working as a doctor, or something like that. Like really, really smart, and they will absolutely destroy you out there. Like you could be the best boxer, you could be the best kickboxer, whatever. These guys, like if they can get their hands on you, like they just murder you, and it's just confusing to you, because they look like somebody that would never have played a sport. In fact, like a ton of guys that do the sport have never played a sport, and it's just that to me is what kind of drew me in. Like, holy crap! Like this is a sport where like literally anybody can become good at this. Like anybody in the world can become good at this. If you look at like if you look at pictures of like the top guys in each weight class, guys are the champions of the world or whatever in their weight classes, like half of them look like you would have no idea they even played a sport when they have a t-shirt on or something. They'll take their t-shirt off and there's tattoos everywhere and stuff, but like, you know what I mean? And that's what I thought was cool. And then on top of that, it's like it's not just about making it to the top level of the sport. Like this is a sport that's like as far as men are concerned, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's really primal. Like it's I think every guy like in the world, like this sport is like one of the most intimidating things you can possibly do. It's really fun, and like I was saying earlier, anybody can learn it, but where it gets hard is you're gonna have your ego tested, with another man in front of other men, and like every time it happens, what it's symbolizing is like if we were in a real fight, like then I just got beat to death. You know what I mean? Like if this was, we were in ancient Rome or something, like I'm dead. You know what I mean? And like so it's hard for guys to be able to deal with that. But what's good about that, the reason I like that for young men especially is if you just do that repeatedly, because it's honestly terrifying. And like my first time walking in the gym, I was absolutely terrified, and like I joke with our guys that come to our gym all the time, like, look, I know it's scary. It's still to this day, like when it's time to put the gloves on and start sparring, like I still get nervous, like every single time. Like every single time I get nervous, because you don't know what's gonna happen. You get hurt, like you get black eyes and like all this stuff, or you get knocked down in front of your friends, or whatever's gonna happen. But if you can do that repeatedly, what it does is like then like ordinary interactions that might be make you a little bit nervous, like speaking in public or like just walking up and talking to somebody you don't know, become like nothing. It's like because you know that like that later on that day you're fixing to go do something that's like insanely hard, really, really, really difficult. And it's beautiful. Like I don't really know how to explain it. Like I've seen guys that just didn't have a lot of confidence, like were very like, and I mean boys specifically, but they're very timid. And then you get them into the gym and like they're terrified. They don't want to, maybe their parents. We've had guys like their dads are making them do it because they want to toughen them up, whatever. And like they get in there, and in our gym, like we're very forward, so we try not to baby anybody. Like we go ahead and throw them right in. Like our view on this kind of, they need to know right now, like if they're gonna like this or if it's not for them, So we immediately throw them into sparring, and so far we've had guys like get black eyes on their first day, or like get bloody lips or bloody nose their first day, but we've never had somebody say, I hated this, like that was the scariest thing I've ever done. What's always happened for us so far is like these guys that we have some guys that literally never even played a sport before because like their parents are trying to keep them safe, and then they come to us, put them in boxing gloves, they get beat up pretty bad or whatever. But what they realize is like, oh my gosh, like I can take a punch, and I'm alive, I'm okay, and like, and then they realize like after a week or two, like they get a little better, and then like a new guy will come to the gym, and now they can beat this guy, you know what I mean? And like your confidence starts to rise up because it is just a weird thing among guys, like if you don't know how to fight and I do, we don't have to talk about it, but there's like an unspoken, like I just feel like I'm 100% comfortable, you know what I mean, like in this situation. And so it's fun seeing guys like come in with no confidence, do this super hard thing, and then walk away with like a huge sense of confidence. And I always used to tell my students back when I was teaching that, like, when I was growing up, I never got bullied or anything, but I remember people getting bullied and like thinking like, I should probably say something right here, like this is kind of messed up. Like, when somebody was getting bullied, they didn't deserve it, And but I was scared too. I didn't want it to turn on me, But if I had been doing something like this, then I think I definitely would have, And that's the cool thing about it is like it's not trying to take guys and like turn them into like fighters where like they're all, they're just gonna fight for every person or whatever. It's like the idea hopefully is that you actually don't fight as much, but you have the confidence to step in when you need to, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what we're looking to do. So we, like me personally, and like the guy that I on the gym with, like we both of us are a little older, so we're in our 30s, so it's a little hard to like to get into the UFC at that level, or whatever. But that's not why I or him is doing it at all. Like we would love to see some guys get in the UFC from our gym, but the main thing is just like trying to take some young guys that like just need a little help in the confidence department and stuff, and like getting them to that level, because it really does, like it no matter what job you want to get out there, like it's just the true fact, like you're gonna be able to go further faster if you have that confidence behind it, like if you have this like manly, like if we're in an argument, like I know that if it comes down to it, like I can handle this, you know what I mean? It's a really cool thing, so that's why I like it. And then on top of that is like it's such a crazy sport, because you'll have these guys that have like trained their entire lives in let's say in MMA, so they've been working like on all the different disciplines, and then you'll have this guy that's like trained his whole life in wrestling, and then you put them in a cage together, and like the guy's been doing wrestling, like if he can get a hold of them, you know what I mean? It's like he takes him down and wins the fight, even though he doesn't know anything about boxing. Or you can go vice versa, like the boxer like is able to punch the wrestler before he gets there, and so like it's literally endless. Like we I don't know, it probably takes me 3 or 4 hours every day to like learn the content I have to bring in to teach, because you can spend your entire life on just one of these disciplines by themselves and you'll never learn it all. That's what's the craziest thing about it, is like it really is like chess. Like there's endless moves and endless counters, and each discipline like by itself, and then you throw all those disciplines together, and it's like you could do this your entire life and never learn it all. And that's to me what's as you get older is something that's a really cool thing, is like this is something that you'll never grow stagnant in. Like you can forever and ever and ever like keep learning. And another thing that's cool about that is like we have some guys that are older, they're talking about how like they're starting too late. But like my first instructor, he was a DA agent, and then I think he was in his 60s, had both hips replaced. I don't know if he'd had a knee replaced, but he's an older guy, and man, he could like he could kill anybody in the gym as this older guy, and it's like, man, dude, like I hope I can be that good one day. And he would tell us like, well, I didn't even start till I was 44, and it's just like that's kind of mind blowing that like a 60-something-year-old guy could beat a guy like me that's like younger and like a lot more athletic and stuff, like he can. And I don't know, that's a cool thing. And then on top of that, like just like I wish like more teachers would do it, and more police officers, firefighters, like really anybody that's in the service industry should be doing something like this. Because I remember like at the school I was working at, we had like fights, I don't know, just about every week. It was kind of a poor school. They were good kids, but just a lot of fights. And the first time I ever broke up a fight before I started training. And I remember just being like a whirlwind. Like I couldn't figure out where to grab or like what to do, And it ends up getting worse than it should, because nobody knows how to stop it. And you end up like just this crazy like jumble of people or whatever. And I remember like after I've been training a couple months, there was a fight that broke out inside my classroom, And I walked out, and like one of the principals was already like trying to break it up, and like he had already fallen on the ground, was rolling and stuff. And I just like walked up to one of them, like grabbed, you call it wrist control, but grabbed wrist control, and like just kind of picked one of them up and walked to the side and set her back down. And it's like, and she was like swinging and stuff, you know. And I was like I had a control over that, and I was like, "You all right?" She was like, "Yes, sir." And I was like, "So I'm gonna let you go, and we're good." She was like, "Yes, sir." And I let her go, you know. And like her daughter's like, "Man, like holy crap, you know, like this is important, you know, because like the way that kind of stuff works is like if it's like a big fight with these kids at school, if a kid actually hits a teacher, you just don't by accident, like they're in huge trouble with that, you know. Whereas if the teachers knew how to just get control really quick, like you can break it up without, you know, potentially without even a kid even hitting another kid and nobody getting in trouble, you know, because you don't want to see that. It doesn't help anybody for two kids to get in a fight and like one has to go to the alternative center for 6 months or whatever like that. They're gonna fall behind and just not what you want. So it is something that I think is really helpful, just like in everyday life. So I don't know, like I guess I could talk forever and ever and ever, but I think the main reasons that I like really love this sport is one that you don't have to be like this big bad savage person or whatever to be good at it. Like you can literally be nerdy. Like one of my favorite fighters there is this kid named Mikey Musumeci, and he's autistic, and he wears these big thick glasses, and like he's like really smiley, and he only eats pizza, and like he's just a little tiny guy, and he's famous for fighting these big giant bodybuilder type guys, you know. And it's like it's just crazy. It's kind of mind blowing. This little nerdy kid can like take on these giant humans, you know, that just look mean. And I don't know. That's just something that I there's no other sport that I see that's cool like that. Like, you know, and then also being able to take guys that like are really timid and stuff and show them like, look, you can go way further than you think you can, you know, or you can handle like way more conflict than you know you can. You know what I mean? Like we try to show them that they can get through it. You know, that's the big thing, is like just learning, like, you know, like you're boxing for the first time and like somebody's punching you, and it doesn't feel good, you know, like to get punched and you got your hands up and you're trying to shell and they're just beating you up or whatever, you know, and like, but you can kind of show these kids though, like, but if you just can keep your hands up, you know, and like move around enough, like you'll survive, you know, like the timer's gonna go off and you'll survive this, and, you know, then next time you can learn like a little better, like some counters and stuff, but like just teaching them that, like, look, you really can, like you might feel like, you know, you're a weaker guy or like you didn't grow up playing these sports and stuff, but like you can, you know, like you can get through this. Like not only can you play sports, like you can do the most savage sport there's ever been, you know. It's like, I don't know, I wish more people did it again. Like I think that, I'm trying to think where it stopped at, but I think it was like every single president was a wrestler up until like, I think it's like the last, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. Like everyone in wrestled. Like Abraham Lincoln was a state champion wrestler, and so we used to have, you know, that was like a big thing between guys, like where, I don't know how to explain it. It's like there wasn't much conflict because everyone was kind of trained, and like, you know, there's a consequence to conflict. You know what I mean? Like if me and another person get into an argument, like the argument can get really bad because like neither one of us feel like an actual fight's gonna break out. But when there's two guys that are trained, like if you were in our gym, like me and the other guy that owned it, like we argue all the time, but it's always very like, it's just like light arguing, whatever, because we both know that like if the level raises, like there's consequence to it, you know, like it's isn't gonna be just like I'm mad at you and I'm mad at him, you know, there's gonna be physical conflict that comes after, and like it really does like change the way you talk to people, you know. It makes you not want to be disrespectful, it makes you like you want to choose your words more carefully, you know, and also at the same time, like it helps you, like when somebody's being disrespectful towards you and like they don't know, you know, about any of this fighting stuff, like just easy to kind of let it roll off, you know, like just not bother you, like they don't understand, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I kind of wish that we were kind of into it more. Like I remember was one of my, like, was it President Roosevelt, like he would even, like, he was a wrestler too, but he would even like invite people to the White House to box him back when that was illegal. So like it was like boxing, I think, used to be America's biggest sport. I had a professor in college that managed to read a book on it. It was awesome, but it used to be our biggest sport, and it was illegal though the entire time. So they were calling it prize fighting. So it was like awesome, and they would build these, like the mob would build these giant, like 100,000 person stadiums back in the day, and like probably Jack Dempsey to fight. And it was illegal. Like the sport was, if the police showed up, they could take everybody to jail, and they would have 100,000 people. It was just crazy. I don't know. I guess like that's like a kind of reminiscent of like, because it just like when I started coaching and stuff, like it started getting really hard because like you have to be careful. Like you can't talk to kids a certain way. Like you can't. You're starting to see this kind of stuff where, like, you know, I yell at a kid and, like, they get upset and they tell their mom, and their mom's at the school and they want to talk to the news, and, like, you're just like, what is going on here? You know, like, I don't know how to. And this fighting thing is, like, you don't ever have to, like, I don't ever have to yell at a kid. I don't ever have to, like, really get on to a kid because it's just understood. You know what I mean? Like, they can't beat me in a fight, so, like, they're not even going to mess with it. You know what I mean? And, like, it's just, it almost sounds, like, mean or something, I guess, but you could be there and experience, you would see, like, it's actually a really beautiful thing. You know, it's like, it just feels like that's how it was supposed to work. Like, kids today, like, the, like, physical, like, and I don't necessarily agree with corporal punishment and stuff like that, but kids today, like, because that physical aspect has been removed, like, they are kind of enabled to, like, challenge adults' authority, whereas, like, that wasn't the case. You know, for the thousands and thousands and thousands of years, you didn't do that because, you know, there's like serious consequences. Like that adult is an adult and you're a kid and they can hurt you, you know? So I don't know, like I wish more kids did it because I do think it would help a lot of kids gain respect and stuff. And like, I don't know, I feel like we're not headed in like in an awesome direction, like where I don't necessarily like the idea of like paddling kids and stuff like that, but at the same time, especially for boys, like I just feel like boys, like we have this weird need to like, we want to challenge authority. You want to challenge, you know, whoever's the leader of the pack or whatever. You kind of want to challenge them. Like, you can't actually do anything physical. That becomes like clashing arguments and like things that like really, as a teacher, like, which I think you said you're a teacher too as well. But like, you know, me in the classroom especially, like, I eventually started getting to the point where like I didn't want to argue with anybody. I was telling them, like, look, if you're wanting to like, you know, show the class how manly you are, you're more than welcome to get a mouthpiece and come to the gym tonight. But other than that, like, let's just, like, I can't do anything to you, you can't do anything to me. We need to just stop this, you know. And but you know, you as a teacher, you start like this. If there's becoming a problem where like you have 30 kids in a classroom and like 28 of them really want to learn that day, but 2 of them don't, and like you literally can't teach the 28 because you're having to just sit there with the 2, and like it's really frustrating. But like, see, with the boxing thing, it changes that a little bit because they will listen to you. I don't know what that is with boys, but they will listen to you when you have that respect kind of thing. And we're really big about, like, you know, we tell the parents, like, we've had a couple parents bring in kids saying that like they're being disrespectful, and like, you know, I mean, we let them know, like, in the, you know, in a safe but not like easy way, that like we don't disrespect parents, you know what I mean? They don't do any of that kind of stuff, or they'll bring them in and tell us their grades aren't good enough, and like, you know, we put them through it and make them not want to do that anymore, you know, and it seems to help them a lot. So I don't know, I think I like the sport so much because it instills so much character and discipline and confidence, and then it's something you can do like for your entire life. And I would have killed to have done this when I was young. I didn't start till I was 28, so it's an amazing thing. I don't know.
Tell me about the community support for this. Like, where are you fighting? When can people watch the fights?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a blossoming sport. You know, like I think I was in high school when the first UFC fight started happening at first, and it was illegal for a long time. You know, and there's still states that don't allow it, but because it's, you know, it's savage or it's brutal or whatever, you know, which is true, which is why, but that's why I think a lot of people like it. But there's a lot of promotions around. Me and the guy that I own the gym with, we actually like commentate fights. So like we bring all this live streaming equipment to fights and like set up and like commentate their fights. But there's boxing promotions around, kickboxing promotions around, jiu-jitsu promotions around, MMA promotions around, and they all get on TV. And like I said, we already have like, I think there was 5 guys in this last month or 2 that just got they're getting their shot at the UFC, which is like the NFL of fighting. So it's pretty exciting. But yeah, as far as the community, it's like, it's one of those weird things. Like, when we started the gym, like me and the other guy both have full-time jobs. Like, it's one of those things, like anybody tell you, you were not going to make any money at doing having a business like in in fighting. Now martial arts is a little different, you know, because like they kind of advertise it towards kids more and stuff like that. But fighting is like there's no way around it. It's every single day is insanely hard. You know, you're spending 3 hours, and it's not like doing drills like with the coach or whatever. It's like the whole time you're getting hit, or you're hitting, or you're wrestling or whatever. It's like just extremely difficult, and like just wears on your body, and there's lots of injuries and all that stuff. And so because of that, and because we spar every day and stuff, not many people like are brave enough to step in. And like that's why I always tell the guys, like, because I was the same way. I was afraid my first time too, and I always tell them, like, look, you know, you got the hard part out of the way. Like, just step into the doorway is the difficult part. You know, and once you're in here, like, things are gonna be okay from here. Like, if you were brave enough to get in the door. But as far as like people trying the sport, yeah, it's like not many people want to do something like that. You know, that not many people want to get off work or get out of school and then go right into a gym and get beat up for 3 hours. You know, it's just be able to do. It's we're grateful for it. And it's awesome, but it's just not one of those sports where like it's not one of those things where like, you know, people don't pat you on the back for doing a good job or whatever. You know, it's very like nobody needs to tell you if you're doing good or bad, because you're 100% aware. You know, like I'm either getting beat up or I'm beating him up, and there's no in between. You know, whereas like karate or something like that, you know, like you're getting belts and you know, you're getting like doing like the award and stuff like that. So it's just not the same. You know, and we've had like, you know, I hate it for them, but we've had some guys come in from some of the martial arts schools around, and like, and you almost hate to even say it like this. Like I think a lot of these like karate and stuff like that is I think it's great for fitness, and like if you like if you think it looks cool and stuff, or you like the tradition of it and stuff, I think it's great. But we've definitely had some guys coming to the gym that have been doing karate for 7 years, and like they were wanted to test themselves. You know, they've been told that this was going to work in a straight fight or something like that, and like, you know, get beat up pretty bad at our gym. And you know, so as far as like it's also really good for self-defense, because we don't do there's no like I guess this isn't technically a cuss word, but this is what they call it. They call it bullshido. Like there's a lot of like stuff you see like in movies, or like on social media. Like you'll see videos of people like disarming with knives and guns and all that stuff, and like that looks so cool, you know. Or they'll do these crazy karate kicks, and it looks so cool and stuff, you know. But like the difference in that and like mixed martial arts is every single day, you know, you can learn all that stuff, and like it might work for you, it might not, but every single day we're gonna put gloves on, and like we're gonna put mouthpieces in, and you touch gloves, and like now you're gonna see if it works, you know. And like, and if you tried and like it doesn't work, then you know to throw that away. If you try and it does work, then you know to keep it. But a lot of these martial arts, I don't know how to explain it. They're showing them these moves, or like, look, this is how if somebody comes at you with a knife, then let me grab your wrist and do this, whatever. But the problem is like, and even with school or police too, you know, like we have police officers that train with us sometimes, and like this stuff they learn in the academy where somebody shows them like, look, grab their wrist like this and then do this, you know, like it works when somebody's letting you do that to them. But if you try to like, if you're trying to grab my wrist or something, like I'm not just gonna let you have it, you know what I mean? So you have to learn how to do it like against somebody who doesn't want it done to them, and that's where this sport is different. It separates from the other ones, you know, like can you know, you're really good at karate, but can you kick me if I don't want to be kicked, you know, like, or can you kick me if I'm allowed to kick you back hard, you know what I mean? And like it really, like you can see in people's eyes, like it is very visceral, like it's very like, holy crap, this is not what I thought, you know. Like my first time ever sparring with somebody, like I'd been hitting the punching bag, and like felt like I was like if I got in a fight I would do really well, you know. And I mean, like the first time I was sparring, you know, didn't even realize we were going hard or whatever, but I mean I got knocked out the first time it ever happened. Like, and it was like, you know, like kind of like realizing what had just happened to me, like what the, like that was not the way that I thought that would go in my head, you know. But you know, you learn pretty quick that like, yeah, I was hitting the punching bag and stuff, but I wasn't learning like the punching bag doesn't punch back, and so you got to be able to punch and move your head, you know. Or like the punching bag doesn't do that kind of stuff, you know. If you're doing karate, like you can't like if you have your hands like below your face, like they're gonna punch you in the face, you know. Your hands have to be up. So I don't know, it's just I I think that's why I like it, is because it's real. Like before, like when I was playing like sports and stuff, and like a lot of my friends joke with it now, like guys that are in fighting, they call those, all the other sports, they call them ball sports. So it's like a bunch of guys playing with a ball, you know, and like that's cool, you know, but like this isn't it, but that's a game, you know, like football's a game, basketball's a game, like this is a real, like it's a real thing, you know, this is like as primal as you can possibly get to, you know, like just human versus human, like no, there's nothing else involved, just what can you do, and that's why I think that like I kind of fell in love with it, and like I don't know, I've never been like a tough guy or anything like that, and like it's almost funny now, like just hearing people say that, like oh, you know, Jamon's a MMA gym, or you know, it's a fighter or something like that. It's like just even hearing that sounds weird to me, because I just didn't grow up that way. Like I grew up, you know, I really enjoyed school. You know, like I have a biology degree. I love science. I love reading books. Like I love lots of things in the educational, intellectual space. But I would put this sport into that space, even though like most people, like including my parents, like don't understand it all. You know, like see it as like a savage. Like I remember my dad calling it one time a redneck sport or something like that. You know, it's just funny. Like I think he's kind of starting to understand a little bit more now. You know, but it really is like it's a very intellectual. Just I don't know. There's nothing. There's just not much else like it. There's especially in a world today where it's like, you know, everything's virtual. Like, you know, you're seeing things through screens, and like things are like that we're not having as many real experiences. You know, like you can virtually walk through the woods instead of like actually going there. You know, I think that's what's cool about it, is like this is a super real thing. You know, like people thousands of years ago were doing this exact same thing in the exact same way. You know, and it's just I don't know, it's just a cool thing. It just makes you feel like you're connected. And then on top of all that, like I would say that my favorite thing about this kind of sport is what you start to find is like the guys who stay. So you have a lot of guys that come in and try it out, you know, and some of them get punched and like, nope, not doing this anymore, you know, and some of them get punched and they end up liking it, and they want to learn, you know, how to get better. And over time, like when you're in this room with these guys, like every single day, and like you're just every single day you're because there's no established hierarchy, you know, so you're always trying to beat the next guy. Like and we like preach to our athletes that, like, you know, just because I'm better than you today doesn't mean that I'm better than you tomorrow. So you should never come in here like expecting to lose. You know, like come in, try to win every single time. That's how we all get better. But what ends up happening is like when you have these guys that love you enough to like literally they're trying to hurt you so that you don't get hurt, you know, in a cage or somebody who doesn't care about you. It just forms this crazy bond. Like it's like a super strong, like tight bond with all the other guys. And like, you know, like I said, like nobody really makes any money in this sport, but what you do is you end up gaining a family. And like, you know, like if I need something done, like there's probably a guy in the gym, you know, that does, like, he's a contractor and he does this, so like I'm gonna use them first, whatever, you know. That's like my family. And like as a guy, I think that was something that was like I was struggling with for a little bit. Like when I got out of college, like, you know, you kind of like lose touch with your friend group or whatever. And just like I would joke with my wife all the time, you know, like my wife's my best friend by far, you know, but just as a guy, like sometimes you just feel like you have to be around. You just need like to be around some guys. Like my wife will joke with me now, like if I'm getting on her nerves or something, like picking at her, she'll say, "Jimbo, you're gonna have to go to the gym," you know, because she knows like that's what we're doing. Like we're going there, and I'm gonna mess with all them. They're gonna mess with me, and like we get to be just boys again or whatever, you know. And like that's something that's also fun as well, like because you can't like at my age, like where I'm not, I have a family, like I'm not gonna go, you know, to the bars or, you know, something like that. Like I'm too old to be doing childish things like that, you know. And so this is like, to me, it's even better, but it's like the next best thing, you know. It's like all our guys, your boys, whatever, you know, get in the room and like we go at it with each other and we talk about life and stuff like that. And then, you know, you just walk out the door and like all the life stresses like that just feel like they've kind of waved off. You've kind of had like some counseling session, you know, with your friends, you know, or like there'll be times when like, because like I was saying earlier, it's such a visceral, your ego's so involved, you almost can't stop it. Like there's days where I go in there and like a bunch of other guys too, and like somebody beats me up that I'm not used to getting beat up by or whatever, you know, like I just was all for something like that. And like even if you know that like that's not a big deal, like it's insanely emotional, like this wave of like you just feel, because I don't know how to explain it. It's like manliness got checked in front of everybody, you know, and so you have this wave of emotion, and like it makes you want to cry and stuff like that or whatever, you know, but you eventually learn to get over it, but like what ends up happening is kind of funny is like guys who like will have that emotional feeling or whatever, and they just like open up, you know, like about their job or like, oh, me and my wife or, you know, or me and my whatever, and like they just like open up on these things, and everybody come, you know, you're with all your friends, and like everybody's giving advice and like trying to help build them back up or whatever, because you want them to come back in the next day, you know, and so it ends up being like therapy for most of the guys, you know, which I've never been to therapy, but I'm assuming it's something similar, you know, you just kind of open up about whatever's bothering you. So we do that every day, and I don't know, it seems to really make life a lot more enjoyable. I don't know, everything just seems easy after doing something like that. So.
Are there any rules?
In doing that?
Uh-huh.
But like you can't, and they're kind of weird rules. You can't headbutt, you can't bite, you can't like gouge, you know, you can't like stick your thumbs in somebody's eyes. There's some kind of weird rules, like if somebody falls on the ground, like you can't kick them in the head if their hands are still touching the ground, like they have to be able to get back up. And then you can't elbow people in the back of the head, I think back of the head. So there are some rules, but they're like, it's really just there just like so to try to like, you can't prevent all the injuries, but like stupid ones, like of course you can't gouge somebody's eyes, like they would never fight again, whatever, you know. And like that's also a something that people like to use, like, oh well, you know, that then I don't know that for self-defense, because if you're in a real street fight, then I want to learn how to gouge eyes or whatever. It's like, okay, well that's really easy to do, you know, you just stick your thumbs in their eyes, you know. But yeah, so there's some rules, just trying to keep people from getting like where they can't keep fighting, you know. But injuries and stuff, like, I mean, I'm fixing to have to go get surgery on my bicep. I ruptured my bicep 2 weeks ago, so I don't know. I think it's a good thing not having quite so many rules, because it is, like, as far as self-defense, like probably the best sport there is, just because you know, like boxing, you can't grab onto somebody or whatever, and that's not realistic. Like if you're, you know, in an argument with somebody and like and they grabbed a hold of you, like, you know, you need to be get away. So that's why it's good, I think.
Is it timed?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how
Yeah,
how it ends?
Yeah, and like each promotion like has their own. They get to kind of decide like their own rules, and like that's kind of part of the fun of it too. Is like you can decide like what route you want to travel. So like in typical MMA, like amateurs have 3-minute rounds with a minute rest, and then like in the UFC, like the championship rounds, like they call them, I guess, like professional rounds, they do 5-minute rounds with a minute rest in between. But then there's like boxing where you've got like 12 rounds, you know, or like wrestlers they have 1 round, but it's like continuous, like the clock's starting and stopping. Jiu-Jitsu has like, I think they do like 30-minute, just whoever loses first, like it just doesn't stop till the end. So there's a lot of different rule sets and stuff, and it kind of depends on what organization you want to travel down. So, because it's at the end of the day, it's prize fighting. So there's, you know, NFL is like that's a game, and like, but it's a team sport or whatever. So you have to join a team. It's in an organization that has rules set. This is more like it's your own thing. You know, it's like you and like this organization offers this amount of money or this amount of compensation, and like they have this rule set, and this one has that rule set, and you kind of decide which one you want to go down. You know, because at the end of the day, like I said, it is prize fighting. So.
How, in the end, how do you decide who won?
So there's judges, and like that's a big. I mean, you know, like, and that's what I was saying earlier, like with the different rule sets and stuff. Like there's a lot of people that are like very like there shouldn't be, judges should never decide, like, you know, we're trying to do this like gladiators, you know, like it should be until one person like either they can't continue or they say like I'm done, I can't, you know, I can't fight anymore. So there is promotions that do that kind of stuff, like where it's like I was saying with the jiu-jitsu thing, it's basically like they put two guys together and they do this little handshake thing, and then it started, and like it doesn't end until somebody essentially like says like you would have killed me, you know what I mean, if I didn't give up now. But then there's other people that like that, I don't know, it's like they want to incentivize like I don't know how you say this, like action, So the reason that there's rounds and like time in between is because they want to give the fighters like enough. And this probably sounds really savage, but they want to give fighters like fight for 3 minutes, because like if you've never thrown punches for 3 minutes, it's really hard to do, like extremely hard. But then they want to give you this minute rest, because what they're trying to get you to do is like your energy levels come back up and stuff, so that like when you come back out again, they want you going as hard as possible. Because like if you know you're going 30 minutes or an hour with no stop, then like you're not going to be throwing as hard as you can, or like you're going to be trying to pace yourself. But see, they want like especially the UFC, they're looking for fan interaction, and for most fans that don't know much about the sport, they want to see somebody get knocked out or like bleeding and stuff like that. And so that's the reason why they do 3 minute rounds with 1 minute rest, is because they're trying to keep you like have as much energy as possible, so you'll go like try to kill the other guy, the whole time. And then the judges are there. That's the reason the judges are there, is because so like if it ends and you don't get a knockout or a submission, then like whoever was the aggressor is usually going to be the one that wins the fight. And so like it incentivizes action. So I guess it's just one of those rules. Like that's another one. Like I don't necessarily just love the idea of that, because what you end up with is like you're kind of incentivizing the guys to try to do damage to each other for the fans, because they do it by pay-per-view. It's like the more fans that watch, the more money that comes in. And so that's kind of a hard thing, but I understand why they do it, because it's just kind of how fans are, like just in any sport, like casual observers that like, especially in today's world, it's like everything's fast, and like you want these dopamine hits. Most people don't even watch the fights. They'll just watch the knockout. They'll do compilations of the knockouts. So I understand why they do it, but
so for now, is your gym kind of like a venue for fights?
It's not a venue for fights right now, and that's a weird thing. Like, you could get into the weeds, but there's probably not a world that's not untouched by some sort of like regulation body or whatever, but there definitely is like like in the beginning, like the mafia, one of their the easiest ways for them to like launder money or like to make money or whatever was they would fix boxing. So like that was kind of how the professional boxing organizations got started. Like originally it was prize fighting. Like it was like bare knuckle, like just two guys from a factory. Like this guy's the best of this factory and this guy's the best of this factory, and they would just stick them together. They would just meet up in a place and fight, But eventually the mafia kind of got involved and like started creating these. You have to go through these regulations and like even like the government got involved, and they probably do in a lot of things like that. It's like you can see the argument for it. Like they're saying they want everything to be safer, but what it's kind of caused is like if I wanted to start a promotion, then these other guys that already have a promotion have to agree. But why would they agree if I'm going to take part of their, part of the audience? See what I'm saying? And it's just kind of a weird thing. And like the board is appointed by the governor, so they're not voted. It's like I don't know. So that part's kind of weird. So like we don't the venue type stuff, whatever. But it's not that big of a deal. But that is kind of weird. So like in boxing, they're having problems right now because the best guys never fight the best guys, because the promotions like it's like creating celebrity. Like they create a star like Floyd Mayweather, and like he can't lose or else they lose their star. So like he's only going to fight guys that he can beat. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And like I think we're kind of trying to start to move past that. We'll see. But there's definitely a lot of politics behind the scenes.
You talked about commentating.
Mm-hmm.
How can people watch the things that you're doing?
Yeah, there's different ways. So I guess we commentate for a promotion called TCB, and then my partner, he's just started he's trying to start like a media company. He calls it Slice Fighting Network, and he interviews the fighters and stuff and that's another like. It's like the coolest thing to me about it is like because it's one-on-one. It really is like gladiators. Like when like this past weekend, there's these two guys fought. One's name was Israel Adesanya, the other guy's name is Sean Strickland, and like when they fight, like the fans that watch the sport or whatever, I mean, they know like all their whole background, like where they trained at and like where they came from and how they got there for both sides. You know, like one guy is from Nigeria, which is like crazy that he even got to the UFC, and like he was a undefeated kickboxer, and he's like this giant tall guy, and like he's really like he's like a modern day samurai. He does all these crazy flips and stuff. And then you got this other guy who's like a drug addict. He grew up in a tough home, finds MMA like to get out of his addiction and stuff. Ends up becoming good at it, and he's just like this, just like some guy you see in a bar or something, like just brawler type guy or whatever, you know. And you can, you know, there's people that have been following one of them like all the way up and then they fight, you know, at the very top, and like, you know, it's just crazy. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's fun. It's just a fun thing. I forgot what the question was, where I was going with that.
Well, where can people watch this stuff?
Yeah, so like we stream on Facebook a lot, on YouTube. So like I said, my partner's, he has a media company called Slice Fight Network, but I don't know, right now most people are kind of working through Facebook usually, and YouTube.
Is there a page, like what's the name of the page?
Yeah, his is Slice Fighting Network.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and then TCB is that promotion. Like, it's just some friends of ours that started a boxing promotion, and then there's one called Summit Grappling Championships, and there's another one called Summit Fighting Championships, and they host like regional MMA right here. So pretty cool. And then there's like I was saying earlier, a gym that I used to train at. They have a guy fighting this weekend for like it's like the way that you have like it's kind of like the NFL of fighting. The way it works is like they have like the giant organization, and then like underneath is like the, I don't know, like feeder organizations. Like, so you do good in like the one I was saying, TCB or Summit Fighting or whatever in Mississippi, and then they'll call you up to the next one, which is like Dana Fight Contender Series or something. And if you do good there, then they call you up to the UFC, which is where like you're making a lot of money. It's like you don't make any money in the beginning. In fact, like you get paid zero for your fight. You have to train all this stuff. You have to pay your coaches and your gym membership. And if you get hurt, you have to pay for to get your injuries fixed and all this stuff. And so it's like, I think that's the reason people like it so much, is like it's a very like glory driven sport. So like the guys that are doing it, they're not in it for the money. Like, everybody knows that if you want to be a fighter, you're going to be broke until the very end, and then you see these guys making, like Floyd Mayweather's the highest paid athlete in sports, but he was broke, for the first 15 years of his career, so it's like, I don't know, it's I think that's a good thing about it, because it seems for the time being, like, because of the way it is, like, guys who are like really money focused seem to be going to the other sports. The guys who are just in it, like, I want to be the best fighter in the world, like, those are the ones that we have. So I don't know, I think that's cool. Like, I like the idea of it being something you have to kind of scratch together. Like our gym, we have two fighters that are coming up. They're going to be fighting in November, and every gym is like this. Like, the gym owners don't make any money usually. It's like they're just trying to break even or so, and then the fighters don't have any money. They're always working a full-time job and then trying to train on the side, and have, like, one of our guys has kids, like, so what ends up happening is, like, the gym kind of comes together and tries to, like, okay, look, we can, we put our money together, we can get you this many off days or whatever, you know what I mean? We try to put our money together to get them some training time, and like I said earlier, that's why it becomes like this really tight bond. I mean, most guys, like, if they have their shirt off, like, they're gonna have their gym logos tattooed somewhere, it's almost like a gang or something, so it's definitely, like, as far as, like, community, like, not the, like, the city community, but like the actual gym community is, like, insanely tight, like, really, really, really close. And what's cool about that is, like, you start to learn, like, because there's probably, I don't know, 40 gyms in Mississippi, and most guys are gonna know almost every guy in every single one of those gyms, which is hundreds and hundreds, because, like, you have this weird respect thing, like, where I can walk, like, and they'll let you do this, like, if I want to go to Tupelo Jiu-Jitsu, I can just walk in the door and they're gonna let you train or whatever, because, like, you're in this like, fraternity, brotherhood type thing, where it's like, oh, if you train, then, like, then I know we're gonna be cool. I know we can ride in the car together, we're gonna be fine. Which is genuinely a cool thing. It really is like that. There's not many things that, like, where I can have, like, no clue anything about you, but if I know you train, then I know that we can sit together at a basketball game and we're gonna have fun. Or I know that, like our wives can hang out and it's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? There's just not many other things that are like that. So,
What's the name of your gym?
New Albany MMA Academy. Yep.
And you're right on Bankhead Street.
We're like 2 doors down from Van Atkins, 1 door from Lingham's. You know, we don't know how that's gonna go, how it's gonna go or not. We just kind of taking a shot at it. So we'll see if New Albany's big enough to have a gym like that. But right now it's going good. We're having a lot of fun. So I'll say this for sure is I think probably one of the hardest things about our sport is, well, I think it's probably similar to like directing a movie or doing art or something. You know, like you can't really. It's like art as an example. Like if I'm looking at a painting, like I can't really understand the work that went in unless I've like done it myself. You know, like when I'm looking at it, like when I look at a painting, like I don't see the brush strokes or the techniques involved. Like where there's other people that look at it like, good gosh, I mean this took like weeks and weeks to complete whatever. So I do remember like trying to watch boxing or trying to watch MMA, and it looked to me like just 2 guys, like they're just trying to hit each other as hard as they can, and that's it. Like once you get into it and start training, like you're seeing like every little head feint or whatever. Like you start to learn the moves and it starts making more sense. Especially wrestling. We're trying to get wrestling in New Albany, but man, I remember watching wrestling and saying like, what the heck are they doing? Like what are they trying to do here? They just they're grabbing onto each other. After you start training a little bit, it starts to make more sense. But it is one of those sports where, like, if you just walk into our gym and try to just watch what's going on, like, there's no way to understand. It's like, it's really confusing. Which I think is a good thing, because whereas, like, it makes it hard for our sport to grow super fast, it kind of keeps the sport where, like, only the people who train watch it, which makes it a lot better than, like, you go to a football game and there's just the ads that, like, never played, and they're, like, screaming, like, throw the ball. It's like you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas our sport, like they know they don't know what they're talking about, and like they're not gonna say it because they don't want to, somebody, because like and if that's a very common thing for somebody to throw like criticism at somebody, and then that person said, like, why don't you come out here? You know what I mean? It's like, no, I don't want to do that. So I don't know. It's definitely like if somebody like saw this interview and like want to go like look up YouTube videos or whatever, I would just preface by saying like you'll have no idea what's going on. Like the only way for you to get a grasp of it is like to walk in the door and do it, which is one of the scariest things you could probably ever do. I think you would be grateful for it, but I don't judge anybody for being nervous about it, because I still get nervous. Like I'm going to the gym today, and like I've already been thinking about it since this morning, about what's going to happen and what we're going to do. So it's definitely it's a niche sport, and you're either all the way in, like obsessive about it, or it's probably not gonna